Some of the biggest stones ever moved are still sitting exactly where ancient builders left them. Nobody can fully explain how they got there. One civilization carved an entire temple straight out of a mountain. Another built walls so precise you can't fit a razor blade between the stones. And deep in Egypt, 100-ton granite blocks were somehow lowered into an underground chamber. These are 10 architectural structures ancient civilizations built that engineers couldn't replicate today. Out in Lebanon, there's an ancient Roman site with 3 stone blocks buried in the foundation that are just mind-boggling. They call them the Trilithon. Each block weighs around 800 tons. To give you an idea of how heavy that is, take 2 fully loaded commercial airplanes, mash them into a single piece of stone. The ancient builders somehow lifted them 20 feet into the air and pushed them together so tight you can barely see the seams. Right down the road in the local quarry, they left an even bigger stone sitting in the dirt. It weighs over 1,000 tons. If we wanted to move something that heavy right now, we'd have to bring in custom-built industrial cranes, massive hauling rigs, and literally build reinforced roads just so the weight wouldn't crush the asphalt beneath the tires. The Romans had 0 motors, 0 steel cables, no hydraulic lifts. The best guess we have is that they used huge wooden frames with thousands of people pulling ropes, but the math on how those ropes didn't snap under 800 tons of strain still baffles people today. Famous giant stones at Baalbek got most of the attention, but the flat floor sitting right underneath them is just as crazy. The bottom layer has a long row of massive rocks weighing between 300 and 400 tons each. Across the rest of the thick base wall, hundreds of other oversized rocks sit stacked together without any cement, glue, or sticky mud holding them together. The fit on this bottom floor is ridiculously tight. The rocks are jammed together so closely that after thousands of years of heavy rain, dirt movement, and earthquakes, plant roots still can't push their way into the tiny cracks between the stones. Water barely drips through the spaces. The sheer size of this floor makes Baalbek one of the biggest rock-moving projects ever tried in human history. Ancient workers were lining up massive multi-hundred-ton rocks in straight rows, building a huge smooth floor raised high off the dirt. It hasn't shifted an inch since the day it was put together. Usually when people build a grand structure, they bring in stone blocks and stack them up. Kailasa Temple in India was built completely backward. Back in the 700s, workers walked up to the top of a mountain and started hammering straight down into the rock. They carved the entire temple out of the mountain, chipping away about 200,000 tons of solid stone. Every column, staircase, the buildings, every detailed statue you see there was carved out of that single piece of mountain. Absolutely incredible. They think about how high the stakes were too. If a sculptor making a normal statue messes up, they throw the rock away and just grab a new one. Here though, if workers swung a chisel too hard, for example, like broke a major support column, they couldn't patch it up, an entire section of the temple would be ruined forever. The whole project took about 20 years of non-stop work with basic hand tools. Trying to carve a complex like this out of a solid rock face today without modern power machinery just causing the whole thing to crack and cave in, it would be an absolute nightmare. High above the city of Cusco in Peru, there's an ancient fortress called Sacsayhuamán, built with some of the biggest stones ever used in the Americas. The largest ones weigh over 120 tons. Instead of cutting simple square bricks, the builders shaped every single rock into a weird multi-sided shape. Then they stacked them together like a gigantic 3D puzzle. The fit is so tight that you can't slide a razor blade or a piece of paper between the stones, even though there's no glue or cement holding them together. What makes this so crazy is how hard the stone is. They're using rounded granite rocks to beat and wear down dark limestone until the shapes matched up perfectly. To pull that off today, you'd probably need high-tech 3D scanners to map the shape of every rock, plus specialized cutting tools to carve the matching curves into the next stone. Another amazing fact, huge earthquakes have hit Cusco over the years, and they've knocked down some modern buildings, but not Sacsayhuamán. Puma Punku in Bolivia looks like the leftover ruins of an ancient manufacturing plant. The site is famous for its large blocks of red sandstone and gray volcanic rock, especially these famous H-shaped stones. Volcanic rock is extremely hard, But these blocks have razor-straight edges, perfect right-angled corners. The shapes are so identical it looks like they were popped out of a factory mold. Archaeologists think the builders shaped these rocks by pounding them with hard hammerstones and rubbing them with coarse sand, but try making a crisp, perfectly square inside corner in hard rock using just a stone hammer. You'll round off the edges pretty much every single time. Modern stone workers who look at these blocks say that getting those sharp angles today usually takes tools they just wouldn't have had back then. The sheer scale of the Great Pyramid is pretty staggering when you look at how fast it apparently went up. You're dealing with roughly 2.3 million individual stone blocks stacked into a massive mountain, with each block weighing about as much as a standard SUV. Standard historical timelines say Egyptian crews finished the entire thing in about 20 years. If you do the raw math on that time frame, workers had to cut from the quarry, drag across the sand, lift and lock the incredibly heavy stone into place every 2 minutes, 12 hours a day for 2 decades straight without taking a single day off. And the 4 sides aligned with north, south, east, and west, almost dead on. And to finish the whole project off, workers covered the entire outside with smooth, bright white rocks. They shaved those outer rocks down so flat that gaps between them were basically invisible, making the whole pyramid look like one gigantic solid mountain shining out in the desert. An ancient group of people built the city of Nan Madol right on top of a living coral reef out in the middle of the ocean. The site has about 90 small man-made islands made from long, natural posts of heavy, dark rocks stacked on top of each other like giant stone log cabins. Individual rock posts weigh anywhere from a couple tons to up to 50 tons each. The biggest problem with building out here comes down to location. That specific type of dark rock doesn't exist anywhere near the ocean reef where the city stands. The closest spot to find it was a rock site on the complete opposite side of the main island. That meant workers had to drag thousands of these massive rock logs through thick jungle, down to the beach, and across open ocean water. The local people back then had no metal tools or wheels, like no large work animals like horses to help pull the heavy load. Researchers actually tried testing how they might have floated the rocks across the water using bamboo rafts, but the rock logs were just so heavy that the rafts flipped over and sank straight to the bottom every single time they tried it. High up on a steep Peruvian mountain ridge, 6 massive slabs of pink granite stand side by side to form the main wall of an unfinished temple. Each slab weighs over 50 tons, joined together by thin, custom-cut strips of fitted granite wedged in between the massive blocks. Standing those giant slabs up on a narrow ledge took serious work, but getting them up the mountain in the first place was a massive ordeal. The pink granite quarry doesn't exist anywhere on that mountain. It sits on a completely different mountain peak miles away, separated by a deep rushing river valley. To get those stones to the build site, Inca workers had to break 50-ton blocks out of the high quarry face, slide them down steep, loose rock slopes without losing control, mind you, maneuver them across a fast-flowing river, and then haul them straight up a super steep dirt ramp to the edge of the cliff. One slip on those steep mountain slopes, well, that would mean a 50-ton rock would go tumbling down into the valley, wasting months of grueling manual labor. The Osireion is a strange underground monument built deep in the Egyptian desert, sitting way below the normal ground level. Its main room has 10 thick red stone posts holding up heavy rocks overhead, with individual pieces weighing well over 100 tons each. Unlike most famous Egyptian buildings covered in detailed picture writings and drawings, these red rocks are completely plain, cut with smooth, flat sides and sharp edges. What made building this place so tricky was the depth the builders picked. They, on purpose, dug the whole building deep into the dirt so it sat right inside the natural underground water line, making a stone island completely surrounded by open water. Working down in a muddy hole obviously creates non-stop headaches for builders because water constantly fills up the space, turning the dirt into thick soup and threatening to sink heavy stone walls. Ancient workers somehow dug a massive pit, dragged 100-ton rocks hundreds of miles down the river from rock sites far away, and set them into place inside a flooded hole without the whole thing collapsing into a giant muddy mess. Machu Picchu sits high up on a narrow mountain ridge, roughly 8,000 feet above sea level, right between two active earthquake lines. Heavy tropical rainstorms hit the site constantly throughout the year, yet these ancient stone buildings haven't fallen down or slid down the cliffside in over 500 years. The Inca built these main walls using carefully shaped rocks that fit together without any glue or cement. Many single rocks have dozens of unique angles, cuts, and corners that lock into the surrounding stones like a giant 3D puzzle. When a big earthquake hits the mountain, the walls don't snap or crack apart under the stress. The stones shift, they slide and bounce along with the shaking ground, which soaks up the force of the shaking, and then they drop right back into place once the earthquake stops. Underground, the Inca also packed a deep drainage system full of all these broken rocks beneath the whole city, and this let thousands of gallons of heavy rainwater drain safely through the mountain dirt without turning the ground into thick mud, causing giant mudslides that would wash the city away. Well, that has been the video for today, and I'll catch you specifically in the next one.